Hey everybody, welcome back to Let's Play Hearts of Iron 4 New Order as the good old US of A. Welcome back. So like we're right there, right? When it comes to defeating the Boers, baby, we're right there. Dr. Strangelove. When the movie came out, I had no idea what to make of it. Stanley Kubrick directing a comedy and a satire of nuclear Armageddon at that. Of how the U.S. Air Force general have gone completely insane and thinking the Japanese were destroying America from within by destroying preciously bloody fluids with fluoride and could order a nuclear strike on them? To American audiences, the thought of someone that could order a nuclear attack at a whim was something that could only happen from Germany or Tokyo, not the good old US of A. The flailing efforts to recall the bombers, the German revelation of the doomsday device that had killed all life on Earth as the bombers head for Japan, just further confounds the audience's expectations. The movie showed that everyone, from the unnamed yet the all-powerful and the raving Nazi Fuhrer to the over-ceremonial Japanese puppet emperor, were just as incompetent as any corrupt politician elected in the United States, especially in the face of nuclear Armageddon. Yet, Dr. Strangelove is much more than a surreal look at the mid-20th century fears of nuclear war. It will be recognized to future generations as a classic of filmmaking. Kubrick's obsessive attention to detail in everything from the camera work to the exact facial expressions of the actors on screen. Brilliant acting of Peter Sellers in three separate roles: a British emigre RCAF officer who tries to restrain the American general, the unready and soft-spoken president of the United States thrust into a diplomatic crisis, and a creepy and comedic Dr. Strangelove. A Russian scientist who had some crazy idea on how to rebuild the United States in the aftermath of the now inevitable nuclear war, involving cross-breeding people with plants. The over-the-top and hammy acting of George C. Scott as he revealed just how the world was to end, with American B-52s flying over Kanto, with his arms stretched out and making sound effects with his mouth. A cowboy riding a bomb built like a bull as a Texas rodeo to obliterate the Japanese military base. And finally, the montage of nuclear bombs exploding to the haunting maybe by the ink spots. It is perhaps a perfect dark comedy, funny in its terror, horrifying despite its levity. It brings a stark contrast to the ideas of mutually assured destruction to an audience that just didn't quite comprehend the fact that nuclear war will be the last war. And it could all happen because of a mistake. Chicago Tribune, 1964. I gotta watch Dr. Strangelove. I have it downloaded. It's on my computer. I just need to watch it. But either way, more important than that is that the Boers, we've done it. We have defeated the Boers, which again was the most powerful. They had not a majority, but a good, like, I would say, I want to say maybe like 40% of the armed forces of Africa's Shield were controlled by the Boers. So what we want to do now is we want to make sure we clean up all of these pockets. Beyond a coat of paint. Upon me landing at Bowen Field was, in hindsight, a good indication of what lay ahead for the OFN Survey Corps as they began to expect their inspection of the Haitian Air Corps. A runway was cracked along the entire length, with the maintenance crew having made no real effort to pave over the pocket-marked craters at the edge of the tarmac. The USAF C-130 found its way that there's no hangar available, in a very literal sense, finding just a rotting, hold frame of a corrugated steel structure next to a lap-bladed control tower. A crew of U.S. maintenance crews conducted a walk-arounds with slack jaws and wide eyes, as a handful of P-51 Mustangs hadn't been kept under the protective covers to shield them from the elements. Several have been in working condition, though a few were willing to bet their lives on a joyride. The others were shells of their former selves, having been cannibalized for parts long ago. Inside the Aerodrome's command building, a manuals and training materials that gathered dust and mold, nearly 2 decades out of print, and had seen minimal use during the time. While pilots remained in the force, found more use scrubbing floors and providing basic security for the absent commander, who had been absent for nearly a week. How are the Filipinos doing? I mean, we're seeing that they're green. Like, it seems to me like right now we basically have them kind of stuck. Now, again, our ally is dog shit. They're faltering pretty quickly, which is a shame. Are you encircled? You're not encircled. I want you to move here. Can I send more volunteers now to is this broken? Hey! No, you just said I could do 8, you fuckers. Okay, well, that's still a little broken, but that's okay. A cafe in St. George's. On a street right below his apartment, John had been sitting right outside a cafe owned by his cousin. Before the war, he would go there to unwind from working at St. George City Hall, but he had spent most of his days as a patron of it. The fall of the British government and many American Navy's arrival in Bermuda had made his job more than a little obsolete. As he put his empty coffee cup down, his cousin Paul came over to collect things. Everything all right, mate, he said as he wiped down the table. Same as every other day, I suppose. Weather's nice today, isn't it? Yeah, really enjoying the sun we're getting. Singing, I want to be a drill instructor. I want to shave off all my hair. I want to be that Smokey Bear. Directly adjacent to the pair, a group of U.S. Navy SEALs were undergoing one of their routine exercise drills. They counted around 15 men, all dressed in green and blue military fatigues, who were led by a drill instructor. Most of them, the Yanks, were used to other roads for this sort of thing, but they would also sometimes come into the towns due to a low amount of traffic. After a handful of minutes, soldier boys finished passing by. Anyway, yeah, I'm really enjoying the weather. It's been nice. Okay, so what I'm thinking is we need to, because you're like you're not actually like that strong right now. Because there's still 5 divisions. We have our tanks coming in here. Ford debuts the Mustang. Also, I want to say, some people have been in the comments being 2 things. One, make longer episodes. I understand that. I'm not going to do it for the main reason is that like YouTube isn't my like full-time job, right? I kind of do this in my spare time when I have the opportunity to do videos. 2, people are saying, why do you read all the events? It's because like the whole point of playing the new orders, read all the events. Like I'm not trying to like put anybody on blast, but that's just my thinking right now. Okay, in New York City, Ford astounds the world with what will truly be an all-American classic. Sunlight gleamed from its shiny red hood, the frame that carried its sleek and shove it like a Hollywood prima donna. The chrome bumpers, her ritzy ringlets, necklaces, earrings. Its cabin lay bare, the elements, as if it wished to show the world its velvet cushions that lined its seats. The silvers and ivories topped its every knob and handle. When the company salesman keyed its engine on it purred like a docile house cat. When he stepped on the pedal, it roared with a pride and darted around the track as a man-made cheetah. The crowd of hundreds became tens of thousands when eyes transfixed on the engineering marvel that graced the World's Fair in his presence. They were greeted with numbers and features moments later. 3,000 pounds of treaded steel, rear-wheel drive, 15 feet from bumper to bumper, 3-speed manual transmission, a V8 engine rated at 200 horsepower. An Olympian in a steel ship of car, yours for the low, low price of $2,368. By God, that's a steal. Okay. Let me send 3 divisions. I could end the war so much faster if you just let me send these extra 3 divisions in. Bormann has won the German Civil War. Not crazy. It's kind of like the expected. That's when we play Germany, that's exactly what happened to us as well. I mean, we did play Bormann, so I mean, that makes sense. Escort efficiency or air mission efficiency. Let's go with you next. Because we have a unit. We actually have some smaller divisions over here that are encircled as well. But what's nice about all of this territory up here now being controlled by South Africa is, A, German troops are now going to try to encircle all of this land. The bad thing is that our allies are also going to try to move all their units in here. So it's kind of hard to say whether or not this is going to end up being good in the long run, but I'm still feeling pretty bullish on it. You need to slow down for a second. You need to come down here. A victory and a burden. Mr. Thompson hated the smell of nicotine, and he thought long since he claimed to be its prevalence in the State Department. He refused to let even a single cigarette in any meeting room he ran. Mr. Smith, a young teetotaler, did not mind. Mr. Doe, an old veteran, had to hold a pen between his fingers to stimulate his stress relief. The news that brought him together was, to most people, a pleasant outcome. Who could be unhappy with the liberation of Britain from fascism? We can't, said Mr. Thompson, who compulsively sipped a coffee mug between his sentences. This is the biggest crisis in American foreign policy since Hawaii. With respect, Mr. Smith, adjusting his glasses to better peer at the projected map of England. This isn't the best possible outcome for us. The Royalists love us. The leftists are closer to progressives than the Bolsheviks. Either way, we have a new valuable ally in Europe. Oh yes, we'll win England. Except the Nazis. Mr. Thompson sat down. Another long sip. They'll see American-backed terrorists stealing a core vassal. One that they cannot afford to lose under any circumstances. They'll respond with force, and if any involvement from us, they'll see it as an act of war. But Germany's still in utter chaos. If their troubles drag on for longer, they might collapse in a few months. Mr. Doe rose, staring at the projection. He brought his pen up to his unmarked spot in the Highlands. Willie, he whispered, landed with me in Glasgow, 44. Nazi bastard took off half his head with a sniper rifle. Dallas is more along with him. He turned, picked up his case. We maintain aid. We vote solidarity with the British, and that is the least we can do. Make it clear that we should be doing more because it's worth the gamble to the world. Foreign policy, we now have to do with the Channel crisis, currently on a build-up. Readiness right now. We do not have any information about the readiness of the Germans. Negotiations. Our readiness at 2%. What can we do right now? Further links with HMMR. Let's get that going. We'll have less time to prepare. What is that right now? Because you are... It doesn't actually say. But let's get this going. We're now at 20%. Things I don't want... Actually, wait. Do these all have info? No, just you. Another nation is yearns for its freedom. China crisis become the latest flashpoint of rapidly heating Cold War. Both sides of strongly regions, not like Great Britain, stay in the hands of the other. Each side's readiness forms a primary element of the crisis. Readiness is measured by each side's willingness and capacity to defend its interests and stand their ground. Towards 100%, it means that they will never yield to aggression, and should it reach 0, they will blink, retreating with cold feet over the possibility of nuclear war. Only our side's readiness will be always known to us. Our opponent's readiness is kept secret behind the Cold War's fog of war. This is represented by the uncertainty of our opponent's readiness bar, and areas where our latest estimates could be ready to uncover it. Both sides must try to raise their readiness as high as possible, and should things come to a head, they must try to lower their opponent's readiness as much as possible. Certain decisions are more effective than others. About 80% lies in the red zone. In here, we can rest assured that they will never back down. Same goes for the enemy. There are many ways to end this crisis. When the time is right, negotiations can be opened, and it will end the crisis immediately if successful. But be aware that just how much your opponent is willing to concede depends on their readiness. Okay, so we want, basically, our number needs to be high, their number needs to be low, and we want to make sure they don't go over 80%. Okay. We don't need political power, unfortunately, to do any... I wouldn't mind doing negotiations. Actually, I want to send you here. I want to send you here. We need to try to get these smaller encirclements also dealt with. Okay, because you're getting pushed back. See if you can swing you around to, like, so. 72. Like, there's another encirclement here. Like, there's a lot of small encirclements, which is nice. If we can crush them... The whole front should stabilize, which is important for us. If you were to ask Patrick Hensman of his opinion on international politics was, he'd tell you that he didn't really know. Patrick was busy, and he'd honestly rather be spending his rare free time partying than focusing on politics, which was now he'd ended up in a university cafeteria nursing a hangover, and was watching, ironically enough, international news to take his mind off it. Our correspondents have confirmed the complete overthrow of the PAC supported regime. Drawn the respectable man on TV writing his notes. The revolutionaries have reclaimed a provisional government, with the Reich military having fled the country alongside the commander of the German garrison. Huh, thought Patrick. The idea of Free Britain existed was surreal to him, considering he had been he'd been two last time that there had been one. For his life, remainders of the statues it once had still permeated everyone's understanding of the world. But it always felt more like a distant, fading legend. Until now. We now go to the message broadcast straight from London itself, continuing the newsreader with a broadcast suddenly changing from the newsroom to a city street, with the camera focusing squarely on an old man smoking a pipe. Thanks to the noble efforts of many brave men and women, he began, we Britons stand here today triumphant against want, fear, and tyranny. But the fight is far from through. Without support, we are alone against the pressures of occupation across the channel. To our friends from across the Atlantic and from across the world, we urge you to stand with us to stem the tide of oppression. Patrick was speechless. The man on TV looked almost like his grandpa. It was one thing to know the Nazis were oppressing people far away, but seeing it from someone who looked just like him and spoke the same language as him was something else. What would happen if the president didn't do anything to help? Finishing breakfast, he resolved to pay attention to news more often. See, now, if the Nazis were just oppressing, like, foreigners, that's fine. But oppressing a Brit? Now that's too much. 2% readiness. Meet with Security Council. Send aid to Britain. You know, let's meet with the National Security Council. Thing is, I don't want to get mine too high as well, because I don't want to be in a position where I can't negotiate. You know what I mean? I feel like that will just end up badly in due time. Is you just saying that we've lost some points? I'm not really too worried about that, honestly. Yeah, don't worry about you. 4 hour... How is, by the way, GDP has still not grown as much as they wanted to, but the debt is still fine. Keep the pressure on here. If I can get all of you encircled into one province, that'll be lovely. Get our tanks to move down here. Novosibirsk is United Central Siberia, which is fine. How are you guys doing? 'Cause I don't want you to send troops up here for obvious reasons. It's kind of bad for us. Because you're encircled. That's a Brazilian tank. Can't do anything with that. Reorganization of the Dutch realm. Send our tanks down. Can I send more volunteers? No! Okay. They're still a little pissed at us. Conservatives have been elected in Colombia. Independent state of Croatia has collapsed. How about you can close this, please? Solid NPP campaign. Excellent. Yeah, you move down there immediately. Where do we want to campaign next? Let's go to the West Opposition campaign. Campaign. The Ustate has been defeated. Let's get the encirclement here. Yes, I want you in this province. Nixon staffers arrested. The men laid out in the States War and Navy building in handcuffs as FBI agents, trying their best to not look remorseful in the front of the press's dozens of popping flashbulbs. Their charges had yet to be announced publicly, but if a few had any doubts about what they were. Those who hadn't violated federal wiretapping laws were invariably involved in the cover-up that followed. The press was less interested in what crimes were committed, however, and more in who ordered them. They were all racing to answer one question: how high up did it go? Richard Nixon watched the parade from room 180, silently fuming as the condemned were marched past the press and walked into the waiting police van. He knew Hoover could have dragged his feet and delayed the warrants if he wanted to, but he clearly had no interest in sticking by the president. Should have fired that pass from day one, Nixon muttered to himself as the van sped off and the reporters dispersed. Firing them could have worked, but that would require them to be tried and convicted first. Not to mention burning away any more goodwill than it's worth. Like with all other messes bearing down upon him, Nixon would need allies and time to get out of this, and both were in dangerously short supply. So we have, this is over here. I'd like to get this cut down as well. Thing is, you need like more supplies. But the heavy tanks, we don't have enough heavy tanks to actually reinforce you, which is a problem. Fourth floor diplomacy. 20 years. That's how long it has been since David K.E. Bruce walked down the streets of London. He knows forgotten the fog and the cobblestones. Stepping onto the tarmac at London Airport unlocked a million memories. Long walks with Frank Nelson, Colin Gubbins, dreams of victory, dashed with his flight to Glasgow to America, defeated, humiliating, but now long last, redeemed. Well, not quite. He was on the fourth floor of the McDonald House, the entire floor separate from the Canadian Embassy, kept under lock and key by the CIA. One of the representatives was next to him, a man wearing a nebbish mask to hide his killer underneath. He said nothing, but wrote down everything. He was not what was important. The man in front of Bruce was, and the diplomat forced a smile as he waded through with his ugly conversation. You must understand, Mr. Knight, that I can't promise the United States full involvement in this juncture. He dropped a cube of sugar into his tea, took a sip. Of course, we are committed to increasing our humanitarian aid, and Congress will pass a resolution voicing clear solidarity with the British people. That's about all we can offer right now. Mr. Bruce, I appreciate all that you've done. Maxwell Knight had not touched his own tea since pouring it, but the Jerrys are already planning to cross the channel and slaughter all of us. If we are going to survive, we need to guarantee security from the OFN. Precisely, thought Bruce. You need us, and by God, we want to help. And there are plans, both in the State Department and the meddlers over at Defense. But so many plans and so many drafted, discussion, torn up and redone, all of them ran into the same problem. Neatly summarized as a drunk defense staffer all the way back in New York. If Germany rolls in, it's all fucking over for both of us. Bruce wished that he could do more, but another sea line, another war, haunted them all. Now, I don't know how Germany could possibly actually maintain that, seeing as they literally just had a massive civil war. Because you are actually not losing supplies right now, which is a big shame. I would like to get these guys killed off. Also, I'm surprised we didn't get an event for the fact that the Afrikaners capitulated. I'm surprised. The fires of suffering. There was no silence in the High Veld, for it had broken by crushing the boots of the sandy road through the rocks and the dust. The land without water, but for that deep into their embrace. The soldiers, fearing to step too far into the arid vastness and lost all the agony and solitude of the high places. Backed by bleak vastness of the sky, the wary Americans passed through the corral. It was barely a village, a collection of shacks made of rubbish and dry wood, a handful of emaciated goats and sheep who gazed forlongingly as the men as they made their way to the center of the feeble settlement. Their leader, a boy with patchy fuzz on his upper lip, looked around into the houses and saw the gaps between the planks as sullen red faces near to him with the hateful eyes of the conquered. Evacuate, he called, once, twice. They only glared and snarled at their pig speech, and the boys felt anger stoked at their contempt. Forward he motioned, and the masked men approached with their strange machines. The soldiers watched them in confusion. Without further warning, fire poured forth, and the shacks went up in flames. Screaming, they began to flee, clutching babies and valuables. Crashing to the ground, the shots ripped through the air, tearing into the sunburned skin and fountains of blood. Within minutes, the all-consuming fires had cleansed the village from the face of the earth. All that remained was the ash and the bodies, and the boy commander gazing upon the destruction he had wrought with faraway eyes. Shifting through the remains, the Americans found no evidence of a hidden Boer cache that they all come so hard to find. As dry thunder boomed into High Veld, they turned and retreated the way that they came. Between jagged rocks, back down the Standy Road. -50. Okay, I want to spend this 28 if I can. So we're still on the build-up. Sure, let's blacklist peaceniks in Haiti. And let's see, what else is going on? How are the Philippines doing? Again, it's still kind of a standstill. And our tanks really can't reinforce. I probably should have sent like some infantry or something like that, but that's okay. God, they're so strong. I honestly don't know if we can defeat them in the Philippines. Because you have American bombardment, you have the Army of Freedom. But I don't think there's anything we can do to liberate the Philippines. All we can really do, I think, is just delay the inevitable. Which is not that great for us. Delete this line, delete this line. I want you here. And can you go to this province next? But I will say, with the defeat of the Boers, this is going to be a good time for us to end this episode. So if you enjoy, thumbs up. Not enjoy, give it a thumbs down. You want to see more, subscribe, and goodbye.